Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jayaraddhamadava Kunja Bihari Jayaraddhamadava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jayaraddhamadava Kunja Bihari Jayaraddhamadava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jayaraddhamadava Kunja Bihari Jayaraddhamadava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Kunj Bihari Radha Kunj Bihari Radhe Jaya Radha Rashmi Hari Radha Rashmi Hari Radhe. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe. Jaya Radha Gopinata Radha Gopinata Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe. Jaya Radha Ramana Radha Ramana Radhe. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Radha Sham Sundar Radha Sham Sundar Radhe. Jaya Radhe Sham Radhe Sham Radhe Sham Jaya Radhe Sham. Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Nitai Gaura Haribol 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Vishupad Paramahamsa Vragachaya Sota Sata Shisumachila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jaya Vishupad Paramahamsa Vragachaya Sota Sata Shisumachila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Kodi Vaishnavarinda Ki. Sirup Sisanatan Bhattaraganachi Jeev Gopalavatada Saraganacha Goswami Prabhu Ki. प्रेम से को श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवधर गौर भक्तवृंद की श्री राधा कृष्ण गो गोपाल गो गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जाय। वृंदावन धाम की जाय, मथुरा धाम की जाय, मायापुर धाम की जाय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जाय, तुलसी महारानी भक्ति देवी की जाय, गंगा यमुना देवी की जाय, हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जाय, श्री श्री गौनिताय की जाय, श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जाय, श्री श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर की जाय, गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। समवेत भक्तवृंद की जाय। All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Reading from the Bhagavad-gītā as it is, 12th chapter, text number 20. So the last verse of the 12th chapter. Ye tu dharmāmṛtam idam yathoktaṁ paryupāsate śraddadhānā mat-paramā bhaktās tīva me priyāḥ ye tu dharmāmṛtam idam yathoktaṁ paryupāsate śraddadhānā mat-paramā bhaktās tīva me priyāḥ ye tu dharmāmṛtam idam yathoktaṁ paryupāsate śraddadhānā mat-paramā bhaktās tīva me priyāḥ ye tu dharmāmṛtam idam yathoktaṁ paryupāsate śraddadhānā mat-paramā bhaktās tīva me priyāḥ ye tu dharmāmṛtam idam yathoktaṁ paryupāsate śraddadhānā mat-paramā bhaktās tīva me priyāḥ ye tu dharmāmṛtam idam yathoktaṁ paryupāsate śraddadhānā mat-paramā bhaktās tīva me priyāḥ ye tu dharmāmṛtam yathoktaṁ paryupāsate śraddadhānā mat-paramā bhaktās tīva me priyāḥ ye tu dharmāmṛtam idam yathoktaṁ paryupāsate śraddadhānā mat-paramā tīva me priyāḥ. Ye, those who do but dharma of religion, amṛtam, nectar, idam, this, yathā, as, uktam, said, paryupāsate, completely engage, śraddadhānāḥ, with faith, mat-paramāḥ, taking me, the Supreme Lord, as everything, bhaktāḥ, devotees, they, atīva, very, very, me, to me, priyāḥ, dear. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. In this chapter from verse 24 to the end, in this chapter from verse 2 to the end, from mayy āveśya mano ye mam, fixing the mind on me, through ye tu dharmāmṛtam idam, this religion of eternal engagement, the Supreme Lord has explained the process of transcendental service for approaching Him. Such processes are very dear to the Lord, and He accepts a person engaged in them. the question of who is better, one who is engaged in the path of impersonal Brahman, or one who is engaged in the personal service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was raised by Arjuna. And the Lord replied to him so explicitly that there is no doubt that devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the best of all processes of spiritual realization. In other words, in this chapter it is decided that through good association one develops attachment for pure devotional service and thereby accepts a bona fide spiritual master, and from him begins to hear and chant and observe the regulative principles of devotional service with faith, attachment and devotion, and thus becomes engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. This path is recommended in this chapter. Therefore, there is no doubt that devotional service is the only absolute path for self-realization, for the attainment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Absolute Truth, as described in this chapter, is recommended only up to the time one surrenders himself for self-realization. In other words, as long as one does not have the chance to associate with a pure devotee, the impersonal conception may be beneficial. In the impersonal conception of the Absolute Truth, one works without fruitive result, meditates and cultivates knowledge to understand spirit and matter. This is necessary as long as one is not in the association of a pure devotee. Fortunately, if one develops directly desire to engage in Krishna consciousness in pure devotional service, he does not need to undergo step-by-step improvements in spiritual realization. Devotional service, as described in the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad-gītā, is more congenial. One need not bother about materials to keep body and soul together, because by the grace of the Lord everything is carried out automatically. Om ajnana timirandasya jnananjana salakaya chakasodon militam yanam tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuddhapada Kamalan Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvidamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Ganta Radha Kanta Namastude Atapta Ganjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavane Sharin Prishabhano Sade Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha Paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivajari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Rama Rama Hare Hare Yetu dharmāmṛtam idam yathoktaṁ paryupāsate śraddadhānā mat-paramā bhaktāste tīva me priyāḥ. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me, the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. In this chapter, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna about devotional service, who is very dear to him. So in the Bhagavad-gītā, first of all, Krishna is trying to make Arjuna understand that in spirit life, we have to understand that we are not this body, we are spirit soul. Of course, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, his devotee, who is knowledgeable, who is his eternal associate. But being in this material world, even the devotees of the Lord, sometimes they become bewildered. But that bewilderment is due to the internal potency. But so Krishna, he himself is appearing as a child, but is always endowed with all knowledge and is always all powerful. Krishna, when he appeared in Braj, of course he also appeared in Mathura at the same time as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. And then he appeared as the son of Nanda Baba and Mother Yashoda. Krishna is reciprocating with so many devotees, and he has unlimited associates and devotees. So already his appearance is divine, and he's appearing in two places. At the same time, in Mathura as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, and then in Gokul as the son of Nanda Baba and Mother Yashoda. But the devotees of the Lord who appear with the Lord, they will not understand completely about Krishna's pastimes immediately. Of course, they are always engaged in the service of the Lord, and therefore they are properly situated and do everything with love and devotion. And therefore whatever is needed for the service of the Lord, they will know. So then Krishna performed his childhood pastimes, which are extraordinary. And while playing with his friends, even as a small boy, already he was showing miracles. And Kamsa had heard a prophecy that the eighth child of Vasudeva and Devaki will kill him. So he was trying to kill all the small children who appeared at that time, Krishna's time. And therefore, when he heard that Krishna is in Braj, so he tried to kill him by sending many demons. And they came in various disguises. But Krishna, he killed all of them very easily in his childish play. And then, of course, Krishna, after performing his wonderful pastimes in Braj, he went to Mathura, and then he went to Gurukul also. Although he knows everything, he is sarvagya. Right from his appearance, he knows everything. At the same time, in the pastime, as a child, he becomes mukta, bewildered, so that his wonderful childhood pastimes can manifest. Like Mother Yashoda trying to bind Krishna. So, Krishna, when Mother Yashoda put Krishna down from her lap because the milk was boiling, then he cries just like a child by his own potency, Lila Shakti. And then he breaks the pots which are nearby and takes some yogurt and distributes to his friends, and Mother Yashoda is coming and running behind Krishna. So Krishna is really crying, afraid of Mother Yashoda, although that personified is afraid of Krishna. And then when Mother Yashoda is catching Krishna, trying to bind him, then again he's Sarvagya, he knows everything. And then he's seeing that Mother Yashoda is trying to bind him. And because of his opulences, because of his mystic power, she cannot bind him. So he's Sarvagya, he knows everything right from his childhood, right from his birth. But then he's Mukunda, bewildered also by his own potency, so the pastimes can be performed nicely, for his pleasure, by his will. But the devotees, they will not understand that is the Supreme Lord in Braj. Only sometimes for a moment they see the opulences of Krishna. Like Mother Yashoda seeing in Krishna's mouth the universes, or the Brijvasi seeing Krishna lifting Govardhan hill. But then still they're thinking also that Narayan is helping. Or then they were putting their sticks to help Krishna to lift Govardhan hill. So that is transcendental bewilderment. So similarly also Arjuna, so is the friend of Krishna, is a devotee of Krishna, but by Krishna's potency he becomes transcendently bewildered and he does not know what to do. And therefore Krishna is explaining to him that why are you lamenting for the opposing party? So he was not ready to fight because he saw his Gurujan, Bhishmadev, and Dronacharya, Kripacharya, his Gurujan. His spiritual masters are there on the opposite side. So he was not ready to fight. And it is mentioned in the scriptures, one should not fight against the Gurujan, one should not speak loudly in front of the superiors. But by the Lord's arrangement, so his superiors, they were on the side of Duryodhana. And Duryodhana was on the path of adharma. He was not following dharma, religious principles. But due to circumstances, they had to be with him. So sometimes in this world the situations are very tricky and one is not sure what to do, but one has to depend on Krishna and surrender to Krishna. So then Krishna is speaking to Arjuna actually for the benefit of the fallen conditioned souls. And the first thing we have to understand is that we are not this body, we are spirit soul. So even Arjuna has to be reminded, why are you lamenting? Krishna is telling him, for fighting with the other side. Whatever has to happen will happen, and you're simply an instrument. And even if all of them, they will have to die, but you should not lament for them, because actually the soul is eternal and is not dying, it's only the body which is perished. So no need to lament, but you have to do your duty, you're a kshatriya. And then Arjuna is surrendering, and then Krishna is explaining to him about the process of devotional service, about surrendering to him. And even in this 12th chapter, Krishna is explaining first, so that different persons were interested in spiritual life, but basically two categories. The impersonalists were thinking the absolute truth has no form. Mayavadis or Brahmavadis. And then those who are believing in the Supreme Lord. But even amongst these two categories, there are varieties of transcendental seekers. And therefore Krishna is explaining also to Arjuna in the beginning of the chapters of Bhagavad-gītā. So some are working for the benefit of the Lord also, but they have some interest also for themselves. They're doing karma yoga. they're working and giving some of the result, so they're connected to the Lord, but not fully. And those who are interested in acquiring knowledge, but they're not engaged in devotional service fully. They only acquire knowledge in order to become realized. So Gyan Yoga. And then there are some yogis are there who try to meditate on the Paramatma, the Super Soul. And they're performing Ashtanga Yoga, or Hatha Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, and so on. But then Krishna is explaining several times in the Bhagavad-gītā that the best of the yogis is he who is always thinking of me. Yogi nabhisāvarisham vadgater antaratma sarvam bhajatimam so mayy tamo mataha. In the 6th chapter, the last verse. Not many yogis, but the best of all of them, he is he who is always thinking of me and is surrendering to me. So he's the best of all. And he is explaining that so these devotees are very rare, even amongst the devotees who are surrendering to Krishna. One who knows Krishna completely, Vedi Tattvataḥ, is very rare, very rare. So to know Krishna completely, one has to be fully engaged in devotional service for the pleasure of the Lord, not expecting anything in return, without material motives. So that is rare. So it is a process of purification, and it takes some time to become completely purified. But one has to try to be fully engaged with body, mind and words in the service of the Lord. And then for the benefit of the common man, ultimately then Krishna is also explaining that those who are always engaged in devotional service, Machita matkada prana bodhayanta parasparam katyancha samamitam tushyanti te ramanti cha tesham satariyuktanam bhajadam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. So the devotees, so they will discuss amongst themselves about Krishna, Krishna's pastimes, about the philosophy, about devotional service. And they take great pleasure in them, in that. And the Supreme Lord is satisfied also seeing his devotees together, worshipping him. And then Krishna is helping from within, guiding them. Krishna is in the heart of all the embodied beings and is helping them to advance. And then Krishna is also showing his opulences as to Arjuna, the universal form. He's showing his four-armed form. So even in the devotee's life, Krishna many times is helping the devotees. And then in difficult situation, devotees, they take care, they surrender to Krishna, they depend on Krishna, and Krishna is reciprocating and helping his devotees. And in this way the devotees, they become very strong in their service, in their faith, because they see that practically Krishna is helping us, Krishna is guiding us. That is increasing the faith of the devotee. And then he's surrendering more and more to Krishna. And so here in the 12th chapter also, so Krishna is, because Arjuna is asking just for the benefit of the doubtful person, that who is better, the one who is meditating on impersonal Brahman or those who are worshipping your personal form. And Krishna is saying anyone who is engaged in spiritual activities, he will get benefit, he will advance, but the process of impersonal realization, that is a very slow process. And even here in the Purport, Prabhupada is explaining in regards to this. In the beginning stage, those who are not are fully knowledgeable, so they will approach the impersonal Brahman in order to advance in their spiritual life. But that is incomplete. Incomplete knowledge is there and not properly situated. Because by nature, Jivara Sopa Krishna Nityadas, our constitutional position is to be serving Krishna. That is natural. But in the conditioned state, one cannot immediately understand, and one cannot immediately always be engaged in Krishna's service. But those who are once taking the path of devotional service, Krishna is helping and reciprocating, and the progress is much more fast than the personal's progress. Once one has understood that we have to serve Krishna, then the path is very swift. One can easily advance. But even that will take some time to become completely perfect. That we have to understand. But we have to remain enthusiastic, one has to be fixed, and one has to be patient. And in good association, always engaging in devotional service. Then in due course of time one becomes liberated. So in here, in this verses of the Bhagavad-gītā, very inspiring verses, and showing the nature of a devotee, showing who is very dear to me. And so also in the middle of this chapter, Krishna is explaining that one who is always thinking of me and engaged in devotional service is the best of all. Atā citam samadhatum nāshnokci mayy āveśya yogena tato mam ipchaptum dhananjaya. So, under the verse before, text number 8, mayy madadvatsa mayy buddhim niveshaya anivasisyasi mayyeva ataudvam na samshayaha. So the best of all the devotees is the one who is always thinking about Krishna, who is engaging all his senses in Krishna seva. But if one is not able to always think of Krishna, then one should be engaged in devotional activities and follow the regulative principles of bhakti yoga, sadhana bhakti. Then one will develop the desire to attain Krishna. Then one will gradually be able to think of Krishna more and more. But even if this is difficult, then one should be engaged in following the principles of devotional service, and then one should do one's work, prescribed work, according to varnashram, but then one should give the result to Krishna, or at least a percentage of one's result to Krishna. And then one can become slowly but surely perfect. So the different stages are explained here again in this chapter. Because different devotees are on different levels, and they have to be encouraged. But then, who is the best devotee, and what is actually required of a devotee, that has to be explained again and again. And then he's explaining who is very dear to him. From text number 13 till 20, so 8 verses, there is explaining who is dear to me. One is not envious, but is kind to all living entities, who is free from thinking himself a proprietor, who is understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Lord and everything belongs to him. One is free from false ego, not identifying with this material world, with the material body, but understanding, and we should work with this consciousness. We should be in that consciousness that I am the eternal servant of Krishna. That is known as Sambandha Gyan. One should chant one's japa with Sambandha Gyan. One should serve with Sambandha Gyan. That is mentioned throughout the Vedic literatures. So that is the real ego. I am the servant of Krishna and I should serve Krishna, but not by force, but by love. So we have free will. Krishna is not forcing us to surrender to Him, to serve Him. Even to Arjuna, He's explaining at the end of the Bhagavad-gītā, so I have told you what you should do and what is pleasing to me. Now you decide what you want to do. You want to serve me or you want to act independently. It's your choice. I'm not forcing you. Krishna is not forcing, but He's telling what He likes and what He's expecting from His devotees. But He's never forcing. It is free will. So the jivas have a free will. Either to surrender, serve Krishna, and then one can be fully satisfied in loving exchange, or one can try to be independent of Krishna. But then one will be faced with so many difficulties, being in this material world, under the modes of material nature, and that is not the natural situation. So, but we have to choose to surrender to Krishna all the time, till we are perfect. And once one is free from modes of material nature, then naturally one will be engaged in devotional service. But in the conditioned state, always the choice is there. Because of modes of material nature, one has to choose to surrender to Krishna, to serve Krishna at every moment practically. So with the body, one has to be engaged in the service. With all the senses, the working senses, the knowledge inquiring senses, and then the mind and intelligence have to be engaged in Krishna seva. So devotee is equal in happiness and distress. Because he's serving Krishna, he's feeling transcendental pleasure, and is not affected by the happiness and distress in this world. He's always tolerant, self-controlled, engaged in devotional service with determination. So he's fixed, he's focused in Krishna with his intelligence, mind, and all the senses, trying to be always engaged in devotional service. Such a devotee is very dear to me, Krishna is saying. So we should try to act accordingly. And so the devotee, when he is engaged in devotional service for Krishna's pleasure, then actually he is able to deal very nicely with everyone. And he is very conscious. He will not harm anyone. He will speak gently to others, and even while he is in this world and devotee is trying to avoid any kind of inflicting any difficulty to others. Not only towards human beings, but even towards the animals. But at the same time, if others are trying to harm him, but he's simply tolerating. And so in this material world, the difficulties are always there for one's own mind and body, from other living entities, natural catastrophes. So these are coming and going. And so happiness and distress, gain or loss, they're always there in this world. But the devotee is equiposed. And is not disturbed by all the difficulties. And sometimes fearful situations are there, but he's fixed and he knows that Krishna will help. So therefore he is equiposed. Although some difficulty he is experiencing, but is not, and he may be disturbed also. That is natural. But he is not giving up his seva. He is continuously engaged in devotional service. And therefore he is very dear to Krishna. So a devotee is pure in consciousness, is pure and expert in all his dealings in this world. And he simply intends to please Krishna, and he doesn't want anything for his own personal sense gratification. He is completely dependent on Krishna. So such a devotee is very dear to Krishna. Also it is mentioned that, and we can see practically in this world, so if we get if somebody is glorifying ourselves, then of course that we like more, and if somebody is criticizing us or chastising us, that will not feel so much pleasure. But in either case, a devotee is simply tolerating the situation. And when somebody is glorifying him, he will not become proud and taking so much pleasure in that. No, he's not expecting glorification. But he simply wants to serve Krishna and he wants to glorify Krishna, Krishna's devotee. And so he's indifferent to if somebody is glorifying him or if somebody is criticizing him. He's simply doing his duty and is tolerating the situation. So he's not overly reacting. But it is natural if somebody is speaking nicely to us or glorifying us, then one feels a little elated and one is more happy. But is not too much elated by that and is focused on the service to Krishna. And some things are known as auspicious activities and some are inauspicious. But a devotee is transcendental to auspiciousness and inauspicious things of this world. At the same time, one is trying to do everything nicely. And for example, if different ceremonies are performed for householders, like marriage ceremony, and then also, for example, other ceremonies are there for the family members, especially then for the children, when the child is born. So then namkaran samskar is there, giving a name to the child. Anaprasana samskar, giving the first grains, like this. Or griha pravesh, entering the house for the first time. Upanayan samskar, so giving the Brahminical thread to the boys. So all these ceremonies are there, and then when we also see the auspicious time for that, so that everything works out nicely, and so that the ceremony may be successful. So one will see also what is auspicious and what is not so auspicious, but he's not overly attached to that, and he's always depending on Krishna. But it is natural that one will try to see that everything is favorable, everything is auspicious. That is natural. But he's not depending on that. He's depending on Krishna. Always doing everything for Krishna's pleasure. Then Krishna is satisfied. Also, Krishna is telling Arjuna that one is equal. Even so, if somebody is a friend, is there, mitra. So then there's a loving exchange there. But even if somebody is inimical, then devotee will, because he's not seeing the body only, but he's seeing the soul, and everyone is a servant of Krishna. Therefore, even if somebody is, all the devotees are ajata shatru, there's the enemy of a devotee is not there, he's not born. Because he sees everyone as a servant of Krishna, so he doesn't have any enemy. But still somebody sometimes is inimical towards a devotee, but then he's still trying to tolerate that, and is not disturbed. It is mentioned in the scriptures also, that it's amongst the kshatriyas, even if the enemy is coming to one's house, one should respect him. And he should not feel, the enemy when he's coming to the house, he should not feel that, oh, we are enemies. But he should be welcomed. So that is the rules of the scriptures. One should treat everyone very nicely. Even if somebody is not nice to us, we should be respecting that person. We should not have ill feelings. Of course, there also we have to use our intelligence and we have to be practical, and at the same time, so if somebody is not treating us nice, then we may tolerate, but we should not have ill feelings towards that person. We should be tatastha. We should be neutral. Not if somebody is chastising us or trying to disturb us, that we say, oh yes, Prabhuji, you're a very nice person. No, also we don't have to be overly nice to somebody who is not nice to us. But we should not be inimical, but we should be neutral. Okay, for some reason this person doesn't like me and is not treating me nicely, but never mind, that is the nature of this world, or maybe I did something wrong to somebody else, so now I have to take a reaction. So let me still understand that the Supreme Lord is in control of everything, and that is just the nature of this world. So let me respect everyone. So we will not have ill feelings towards that person, but he may not have to show love towards that person. So, but amongst friends and family members, then there's a loving relationship, loving exchange is there. Somebody is not nice, we don't have to show the love, but we should not be inimical towards that person, but we should be neutral, we should be formal. We may even greet that person, but we don't have to show our love and have a loving relationship. And so devotee is not greatly disturbed by honor and dishonor, heat and cold. When it is very hot, still he will serve the Lord, although it may be difficult. When it is cold, he will still serve the Lord. So it's always engaged in service of the Lord, and is tolerating all the situations of this world. And he's always trying to be in good association, so he doesn't become deviated from his path. So we have to be practical in this world, and we have to try to have good association, and we have to avoid unwanted association. So we should be together with devotees who are very enthusiastic, who are more advanced, who are engaged in devotional service. That will be helpful. If other persons are there who are not so devoted, then that will be difficult then for us then also to remain properly situated and enthusiastic and pure and nicely engaged. So we need to be in good association. And we should, it is mentioned also that one should be always glorifying the Lord, and we should give up unnecessary activities and unnecessary talk. And the devotee is completely attached to Krishna and detached from this world. And whatever Krishna wants him to do, he will do. So it's completely fixed in transcendental knowledge, that I am the servant of Krishna and have to be engaged in Krishna seva. So such persons are very, very dear to Krishna. And so this last verse is explaining dharma, those who are following this dharma, amṛt, which is like nectar. So spiritual life is always blissful. Krishna is the source of all transcendental bliss. And our nature is by nature we are blissful, Satchidananda Vigraha. So when we are engaging in a service and dharma, so that means religion, or it means the constitutional position of the jiva. And what is the constitutional position? That is serving Krishna. That is dharma. If you are engaged in serving Krishna, then naturally we will feel so much nectar in the loving exchange. So devotee is always engaged in pure devotional service. Anyabhilashita shanyam jnana karmanāvritam anukuline Krishna anushilanam bhaktiruttamam. According to Krishna's desire, favorable, as Krishna likes, not what we like. We do what Krishna likes. Not expecting anything in return. That is pure devotional service. And that is required. So the devotees who are completely engaged in devotional service, with all humility, with full faith, fully surrendered with body, mind and words, who do everything for Krishna's pleasure. So they are very, very dear to Krishna. So Krishna, he loves all the jivas. But if one is engaged in pure devotional service, then Krishna is so much happy. Krishna is ātmā-rāma, he is self-satisfied. He doesn't need anybody to be happy. He is always happy. Krishna is the source of all happiness. And he can just sit somewhere alone and he can be always happy. At the same time, he has his devotees, and then there is a loving exchange, and that is increasing his happiness, his pleasure. So when he sees that the devotees are engaged in this service, that is giving him pleasure. Although it's the source of all pleasure. Just like if father is there, he has a child, and the child is doing something for the father. So the father has everything. But if in the house, and the mother is buying, of the child is buying some fruits, and they are there, the father is offering to Krishna the fruits, and if the son is taking a fruit and giving to his father, here, Pitaji, here's some fruit for you, the father will be so happy. But he bought the fruit, and he offered to Krishna. But still, if the son is giving to the father, then the father is so happy, he will thank the son, thank you very much. But he doesn't need, everything belongs to him anyhow, what is in the house. But seeing the nice attitude of the child, he's very satisfied. So similarly, Krishna is fully satisfied, but when he's seeing that his devotee is engaged in his seva, that is increasing his pleasure. And then he's reciprocating. So Krishna is the source of unlimited pleasure, and he has unlimited devotees, and unlimited exchanges are there. So when one is engaged in devotional service, one can slowly but surely understand the greatness of Krishna, Krishna's wonderful transcendental qualities, and one can understand the things more clearly if one is fully engaged in devotional service. So then one is properly situated, and then when one is engaged in this way, and then Krishna will bestow his complete mercy upon the devotee, and the devotee becomes completely free from the modes of material nature, and then he is considered to be liberated. Iha yasya haridasya karamana samana gira nikilashvavyavastu jiva mukta sochate. One is fully engaged in devotional service, even in this material world. One is engaged with body, mind and words in the service of the Lord, then is considered liberated even in this life. And once liberated, so Sarup Siddhi, when one understands one's transcendental position and relationship with Krishna, so that is the ultimate mercy of the Lord, if one becomes free from modes of material nature. And once liberated, then one will never become conditioned again. So that is actually the goal of life. And so that is achieved by Krishna's mercy. One is pleased with our surrender, our devotion. So we have to try to come to that stage of pure devotional service. Hare Krishna. Any question? Swayam Bhagavan Sri Krishna ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Mahaprasadam ki.